let his father's sword lead the path. Against that moonlight, Afro took the number 2 headband, paralleling justice taking the number 1 against the sunlight. This completes episode 4's reiteration of the darkened cinematography of Justice killing Afro's father. And just like in the first episode, the perspective moves over to the powerless onlooker. This time Gino, pledging hatred towards who's supposed to be our anti-hero. Now I guess he's the river to Afro's mountain. And this broke Afro. It birthed Ninja, an imaginary friend, an embodiment of the voice of reason and self-doubt. The realism within Afro. He never let go of anything that tied him into this world. He dissociated himself from it and ignored it, because he became his own worst enemy, recognizing his own anguish in Gino, perpetuating a cycle of revenge, damning his best friend to the same selfless pursuit of taking justice into his own hands. It seems that Afro's self-doubt came through once more, and helped him evade a decisive blow. It's always sad to see a comedy sidekick die, but understanding what Ninja is, this is more of a rebirth and is presented as such. Even as he stutters to worry about Afro in this situation, Afro talks down the suggestions without passion. Ninja talks some final shit and vanishes into the ether.
Oh man, it was the bomb hanging out with you. Afro Samurai.
Coincidentally, Afro doesn't spark a joint again. The now dead MT7 saved Gino and rebuilt the poor bastard alive without pain relief while he was practically dying from shock. Even Brother 6, known for his extreme and callous acts, pled for Gino to die and save him from his pain. The result of the surgery has him stitched up, not unlike a torn teddy bear. Hardly man, nothing but a wandering soul. Some dumbasses thought that robotic body must be valuable, and Gino realizes that he's physically nothing more than unlimited killing potential. He probably looks about as good as he feels as well. Whilst Gino wandered back to the dojo orphanage and focused on the loss of his makeshift family, there's an overlooked detail of a small graveyard laid out. Likely by Afro, the only person who would have been left to care enough. I doubt that clears Afro of his sins though. Now Gino is framed with the same rising sun as Justice was, the next in the cycle of revenge, like day and night. This is how, surrounded by the Heart Sutra, he accepted the haunting costume of the teddy bear. Now, wanting to slice Afro, Gino abandons his home turf and chooses to hold onto one single blade, flaunting his adeptness in cybernetic augmentations to exceed Afro's superior style. Our dude finally draws his blade, completing his conviction. The fight starts with Gino underhandedly kicking Snorp and throwing his sandals, showing he's a competent match for Afro's style, and shattering his sheath. Defense and turning back is no longer an option. The blade cannot be put back, and his one-handed style has no counterbalance. The rapid blows dent each other's swords. Afro takes an errant blow but stays in the game, but EX Teddy is not only parrying, but juggling and landing human strikes. Afro can't even fall fast enough. Throwing out the names of all their family, Gino loses control and takes a glancing blow to his life support circuit, which only seems to turn his left hook into an EWHF and sends Afro to reconsider his life path. But they both know there's no going back. Afro takes his sword in 2 hands to rebalance himself, and lets his determination do the talking. There's something to be said of each of them having contrastingly cleared eyes. They've become another yin-yang pair. The slightest hint of a tear in Afro's eye betrays the path of forced emptiness he'd walked so far. He feels for his fallen brother. Afro enters the peak of Mount Shumi. Justice awakens, and we're transported into the bridge between this and the ethereal world. I don't quite know how to describe it, but of note is the solar eclipse up top. Sun and moon finally meet, and like that motif, Justice's eyes are gelatinously luminant, and Afro's are shaded black. Surrounding his throne there are several skulls sporting several headbands, the highest being numbered 10. There were more contenders than we knew. Perhaps substantiating his claim to godhood, Justice seems to be less human than he's ever seemed. He exposits while subtly feeding on Afro's dripping blood. Truly, this symbol of a man can only exist so long as Afro's heart still beats. He tells Afro he watched him shank Gino, and his imaginary friend, ironically implying some spiritual reality to Ninja, and criticizes Afro as being soft like his late father. Among those criticisms is that Afro's father abhorred the cyclical murders of the headbands. This implies he just happened to find himself with it as the baddest dude on the planet. It was his plan to collect the headbands and hide them so the cycle of violence could finally die. Justice, however, disagreed, though he wanted to forego tradition too. He wants to collect the headbands to secure his status as deity. If there's nobody to challenge him, There's nobody who can challenge him after all. His power would be absolute, and with it he could create peace in this shitty world with an iron fist. Supposedly his ascent into the heavens influenced this decision.
It is time for man to become God, where God has failed.
The fight begins with Afro chopping bullets like his dad and closing the distance. He sees quite a bit more success though as he severs Justice's arms. This is when he shows off the magic trick he used on Afro's father, an unthinkable third arm, like some kind of Buddhist statue. But in a twist of fate, his stealthy machete glances off Otsuda's hair comb, which Ninja planted in Afro's afro. What saves Afro's life is his ties to this world, and what he forced to the subconscious is now expressing itself freely once confronted by Gino. This also raises the question of what exactly Ninja was. Afro takes advantage of the shock and beheads Justice, attempting to be poetic. I guess such a subtle approach as Kubigiri isn't enough.
And I thought you loved your pappy.
This is an opportunity to actually tackle Afro's self-infatuation. Afro is not the first or the last person in this cycle of revenge. The cycle has no end, and interestingly, no beginning. Maybe it's hard to argue for a start point, when each person who takes revenge believes in their own valiance. Justice recapitates himself and becomes one with the realm. Perhaps this was also foreshadowed by those statues with several arms. Just as gloats, he's finally got all them headbands. You should have noticed Afro's still clutching his sword though. Afro's eyes momentarily glow the same clarity as Justice's as he comes back to life. I've always quite wondered what this meant. Easiest answer is that in that moment, his near-death experience means he's achieved some kind of zen, but I don't know. Either way, he helm split as Justice, and for all the satisfaction in the world, we get to see Justice despair before Afro turns him into sashimi. Like that, the world around Afro is enveloped in light. All the numbered headbands fall from their pikes and descend into the waters, flowing out to the world. It truly is a beautiful scene for all it's worth. Afro in this journey has come face to face with his own small part in an endless cycle of revenge, mirroring the Buddhist concepts of rebirth and reincarnation. This may not be relevant, but in Christianity, which some characters strangely mix into their Buddhist rhetoric, revenge is God's right. British and American courts have strong Christian subtext behind them as such. Therefore, the ascent up Mount Shumi has taught Afro his holistic place in time and space, and the power of God just as coveted might be seen to be the ability to take revenge, to create their own justice, so to speak. In Afro allowing all the headbands to take their place in the world, he has accepted that his achievement is one others may attempt. Rather than cutting off his ties to this world, he has embraced his own sins and his individual part of a universal system far larger than himself. This embrace of senseless murder is clearly not what either religion preaches, but this isn't a religious piece. This is one man's story of how he came to accept, rather than justify, his own path in life spiritually. Gino survives to attempt his challenge years later, having collected at least 9 heads to patchwork his body with bandanas. Despite their history, the two of them almost sound like friends now. There's an argument that Afro Samurai is a load of style over substance, but while I do consider that a fact, there is still substance there.
In 10 years, in 5, who will remember Afro Samurai?